The steam from Maurice's soup curled toward the kitchen ceiling, carrying the scent of time and memories. I stirred slowly, watching the broth swirl, thinking about how Henry's eyes would light up when he tasted it, the same way his grandfather's used to. My phone buzzed on the counter. Once, twice, 3 times. I ignored it, focused on getting the seasoning just right. Henry would be here in a few hours, and after everything that boy had been through lately, he deserved a perfect Sunday lunch with his grandmother. The phone buzzed again and again. I glanced at the screen. 3 missed calls, all from Mr. Bennett. That strange flutter started in my chest, the kind that comes before bad news, before the doctor walks into the waiting room with that particular expression, before the phone rings at 2 a.m. I wiped my hands on my apron and picked up the phone. A text message glowed on the screen. "Latoya, call me Mao. It's urgent. Don't sign anything Harry brings you today." The wooden spoon clattered into the pot. "Harry, my son." I read it again, my eyes catching on each word like they were written in a language I didn't quite understand. Don't sign anything. What could Harry possibly bring me that needed signing? We just talked yesterday. He'd mentioned stopping by next week, something about paperwork for my investment accounts. Routine updates, he'd called it. Before we continue with what happens next, let me know in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it there right now? If you want to see how Latoya's story unfolds, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single moment. My fingers trembled as I dialed Bennett's number. He answered before the first ring finished. "Latoya?" His voice had that careful flatness lawyers use when they're trying not to alarm you, which only makes everything more alarming. "Where are you right now?" "I'm home. Mr. Bennett, what's—" "Good. Stay there. Lock your doors if you haven't already." A pause, and I heard papers rustling. "I need to see you immediately. I'm leaving my office now. I'll be there in 20 minutes. "Can't you just tell me over the phone?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Not this. This needs to be face-to-face." Another pause, longer this time. "Latoya, whatever Harry brings you, documents, papers, anything that needs your signature, you don't touch it. Not until we talk. Do you understand?" I gripped the counter's edge. Through the window, I could see Mrs. Chen's cat sunning itself on her porch. A car drove past, slow and easy. Everything looked perfectly normal, exactly as it had 5 minutes ago. But nothing felt normal anymore. "Yes," I whispered. "I understand." 20 minutes. Don't open the door for anyone until I get there." The line went dead. I stood in my kitchen, the kitchen Maurice and I had remodeled 17 years ago, where we'd hosted Easter dinners and birthday parties, where I had taught Harry to crack eggs when he was barely tall enough to see over the counter, and felt the walls shift somehow, like the foundation of everything had tilted just slightly off balance. I turned off the burner. The soup could wait. I moved to the living room window, pulling the curtain aside just enough to watch the street. 20 minutes felt like an eternity. My mind raced through possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. Don't sign anything Harry brings you. But Harry hadn't mentioned bringing anything today. He wasn't even supposed to be here. Unless he'd changed his plans. Unless this wasn't a last-minute visit. I looked at Maurice's portrait on the mantel, his steady gaze, that slight smile he always wore in photographs because he could never take them seriously. "You'd tell me I'm being paranoid," I said to the empty room. "You'd tell me there's a reasonable explanation." But Maurice wasn't here to tell me anything. And Mr. Bennett didn't sound like a man calling about reasonable explanations. A silver sedan turned onto my street. My heart kicked. Not Bennett's car. His was black. This one was newer, shinier. It slowed as it approached my house, and I recognized it immediately. Harry's car. He pulled into my driveway at 10:17 a.m., nearly 3 hours before lunch, 4 days before he was supposed to visit. I watched him step out, adjust his jacket, reach back into the car for something. A leather portfolio. The expensive kind, the kind that holds important documents. He looked up at the house, and for just a second, his expression was blank, calculating. Then he saw me at the window, and his face transformed into that familiar, warm smile. My son, walking up my driveway with papers I had been specifically warned not to sign. I let the curtain fall back into place and stood there in my quiet living room, my phone still clutched in one hand, Mr. Bennett's warning echoing in my ears. The doorbell rang. I smoothed my hands over my dress, a nervous habit from 40 years of marriage to a man who always noticed when I was anxious. My legs felt unsteady as I walked to the door. Through the frosted glass, I could see Harry's silhouette, patient and familiar. 3 days, Mr. Bennet had said. 3 days ago, Harry filed something. But filed what? And why? I reached for the doorknob, and in that moment before I turned it, I realized that whatever was about to happen, whatever truth was waiting on the other side of this door, my life was about to change in ways I couldn't take back. The lock clicked. I opened the door to my son's smile and the leather portfolio in his hands. "Hi, Mom," Harry said, his voice warm as Sunday morning. "Hope you don't mind me stopping by early. We need to talk about something important." "Come in, sweetheart," I said, stepping aside, my voice somehow steady despite the tremor in my hands. Harry kissed my cheek, the same gesture he'd performed 1,000 times before, but now it felt rehearsed, mechanical. He smelled of expensive cologne and something else. Desperation, maybe, though I wouldn't have named it that yet. "I won't stay long," he said, setting the portfolio on my dining table like it belonged there. "Just need you to look over a few things. Financial updates, estate planning stuff, nothing complicated." I watched him move through my house with an ease that suddenly felt invasive. He loosened his tie, poured himself water from my kitchen tap without asking, and settled into Maurice's chair at the head of the table. "Where's Tina and Henry?" "Tina's at her sister's. Henry's got soccer practice." He patted the chair beside him. "Come sit, Mom. This won't take long." My phone sat on the counter where I'd left it. No text from Bennett yet. How many minutes had passed? 15? 16? I sat, keeping the table's widths between us. Harry opened the portfolio, pulling out documents with practiced efficiency. "So we've been reviewing your accounts, just making sure everything's organized, and there are some discrepancies we need to address." "Discrepancies?" "Nothing major, just some confusion with dates, duplicate payments, that sort of thing." He slid a paper toward me, pointing at highlighted sections I couldn't quite focus on. "If you could just initial here and sign at the bottom." "What exactly am I signing?" Something flickered across his face, annoyance, quickly masked. "Just authorization for me to handle communications with your investment firm. Makes it easier when you have questions. Saves you the hassle of all those phone calls that confuse you." "I'm not confused by phone calls, Harry." "Mom," his tone shifted, gentler now, patronizing. "You called me last month thinking you'd missed a mortgage payment, remember? You were so upset. Turns out you'd already paid it, you just forgot." I had called him, and I had forgotten about the payment, but only because I paid it automatically, the same way I'd been paying it for 30 years. "I forgot that I'd set up autopay," I said carefully. "That's different from being confused." "Of course it is," he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That's why we're just streamlining things, taking some of the burden off you." The word burden landed wrong, like a stone in still water. "I don't feel burdened, Harry." "Not yet, but Dad's been gone 6 years now, and you're not getting any younger. Tina and I just want to make sure you're protected, that everything's in order." In order? Protected? Each phrase sounded reasonable, even loving, but underneath, I heard something else, something that made my chest tight. A car door slammed outside. Harry's head snapped toward the window. Expecting someone? Through the sheer curtains, I saw Mr. Bennett's black sedan in my driveway, the lawyer already halfway up my walk, briefcase in hand, his expression grim. "Yes," I said quietly, standing. "My lawyer." Harry's face went very still. "Your lawyer? Mom, why would you need—" The doorbell rang. "Because someone told me not to sign anything today," I said, walking past him toward the door, "and I'd very much like to know why." The living room seemed smaller now, crowded with papers, pens, and legal forms spread across the coffee table like battle plans. Bennett sat across from LaToya, his briefcase open, his expression that of a general preparing for war. "We document everything," he said, pulling out a leather-bound journal and sliding it toward her. "Every conversation, every decision, every coherent moment. Journals, timestamps, and dates. I want you to track your morning crossword times, your volunteer shifts at Second Harvest, every phone call you make. Evidence you're of sound mind." LaToya's hands trembled as she touched the journal's smooth cover. "And the medical evaluation?" "Independent psychiatrist, Dr. Sarah Chen. She's the best in Charlotte for geriatric cognitive assessments. Not your usual doctor at Atrium. Harry's already gotten to Dr. Morrison, twisted your flu appointment into something it wasn't." Bennett leaned forward, his voice dropping. "But above all, LaToya, you cannot let Harry know what we're doing. You have to play it normal, act as if nothing is wrong." She looked down to her hands, the same hands that had held Harry as a newborn, that had packed his school lunches for 12 years, that had adjusted his tie on his wedding day. Pretending normalcy would be harder than any legal battle. Every moment around her son would feel like walking a tightrope over fire. How do I look at him? How do I smile and call him sweetheart when I know what he's trying to do? You think of Henry. You think of this house. You think of everything Maurice built. You think of winning. LaToya stood, moving to the mantel where Maurice's portrait hung. His navy dress uniform, that slight smile, eyes that had always seen straight through to her soul. She could almost hear his voice. "Toy, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." "Every ounce of strength I have left," she said quietly, still facing Maurice's picture. "Every memory of loyalty and love, it all goes into surviving this betrayal." Behind her, Bennett gathered the papers. "First appointment with Dr. Chen is tomorrow at 9. Bring the journal. We start building your defense immediately." LaToya turned back, her jaw set, tears dried. "Then let's get to work. Because if Harry wanted a war over Maurice's legacy, she'd give him one he'd never forget." The first week of documentation passed in a blur of journal entries and careful performances. LaToya tracked everything. Her 7:15 a.m. crossword completion in 12 minutes, her Tuesday shift sorting canned goods at Second Harvest, every lucid conversation with neighbors. Dr. Chen's evaluation came back flawless. "Above average cognitive function for your age group, Mrs. Frederick. Your mind as sharp as a tack." But the hardest part was Harry's Wednesday phone call. "Mom, I'm so sorry about dropping by unannounced last week. Can we reschedule? Maybe this Sunday. We really need to finalize those financial updates." LaToya gripped the kitchen counter, her reflection staring back from the window. "That sounds lovely, sweetheart." The endearment tasted poison. "Great. And Mom, don't forget to bring those account statements we discussed. These things are time sensitive. You never know what might happen." The threat wrapped in concern made her stomach turn. That night, her phone rang at 10:47 p.m. Henry's name flashed on the screen. "Grandma?" His voice cracked. "Can I come over? I need to talk to you alone, please." 20 minutes later, he stood in her doorway, bicycle abandoned on the lawn, his face flushed and streaked with tears. He clutched his phone like it held a live grenade. "Baby, what's wrong?" LaToya pulled him inside, her heart hammering. "I heard them." Henry's hands shook. "Last Tuesday night, I came home early from practice and they were in Dad's office. The door was cracked and I heard—" He choked on the words. "Grandma, I recorded it. I know it's wrong, but after what they said, I thought you needed to know." He pressed play. Harry's voice filled her quiet kitchen, cold and calculating. "The hearing's in 2 weeks, Tina. We have Dr. Morrison's notes, the photos, everything documented. Even if she fights, legal fees will drain half the estate anyway." Tina's response cut like glass. "When we win, the house goes on market immediately. We should clear $1.8 million after mortgage, solves our crypto mess, pays off our debt, funds Henry's college trust." "What about your mom? Where will she go?" A pause. Then Harry, emotionless. There's that assisted living place in Cornelius, much cheaper than Mount Pleasant. She'll be fine, won't even know the difference soon enough." The recording ended. Henry collapsed into LaToya's arms, sobbing. "They're talking about you like you're already gone." With Henry's recording secured in Bennett's office safe, LaToya returned to her carefully orchestrated performance. But now she noticed things she'd missed before, the subtle manipulations, the calculated erosions of her autonomy. Harry started helping with her mail. "Don't want you getting overwhelmed by all those financial statements, Mom." He'd sort through envelopes at her kitchen table, pocketing some, setting others aside with Post-it notes. "Already handled this." Or "duplicate, ignore." Her medications mysteriously relocated. The blood pressure pills she always kept by the coffee maker appeared in the bathroom cabinet. When she mentioned it, Harry's expression flickered with something cold before smoothing into concern. "Mom, they've always been in the bathroom, remember?" But she'd taken photos the day before, timestamps proving the bottles had moved. The gaslighting intensified with surgical precision. "You forgot about your dentist appointment yesterday," Harry said during a Tuesday call, his voice heavy with staged worry. "Dr. Patterson's office called me when you didn't show up." LaToya checked her calendar. Blank. She called the dentist. "Mrs. Frederick, your next appointment is November 18th. We haven't called anyone." She documented it all. Date, time, Harry's exact words, the dentist's confirmation. Her journal grew thick with evidence of his deception. Then came the staged intervention. Harry arrived unannounced on Thursday with Tina and a woman LaToya didn't recognize. Middle-aged, professional, carrying a leather portfolio stamped with the notary seal. "Mom, this is Rebecca Chen, a notary public. We brought those financial forms we discussed. Just needs your signature to streamline the account access. Simple stuff." They settled around her dining table like it was a social visit. Tina poured sweet tea, chattering about Henry's soccer team. Harry slid documents toward LaToya, his finger tapping specific lines. "Just initial here and sign at the bottom, Mom. It takes 2 minutes." The papers blurred before her eyes. Dense legal language, references to transfer of authority and financial management authorization. "Let me have Bennett review these first, sweetheart." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Harry's mask cracked just for a heartbeat. His jaw clenched, eyes hardened to ice chips. Then the warm smile returned, but it no longer reached his eyes. "Of course, Mom, just trying to help." He gathered the papers with controlled movements. "But we're running out of time. The court date is next week." The threat hung in the air long after they left. LaToya dressed in her navy suit, the one she'd worn to Maurice's military funeral 6 years old. Armor for battle. Henry sat beside her at breakfast, neither touching their eggs, both staring at the clock as it crawled toward 8 a.m. "Ready?" Bennett asked when he arrived, briefcase in hand, his expression unreadable. "As I'll ever be." The drive to Mecklenburg County Courthouse passed in silence. Bennett briefed them in the parking lot. "Let them present first. Let them hang themselves with their manufactured evidence. Then we bring the hammer down." The courtroom smelled of old wood and furniture polish. Across the aisle, Harry and Tina sat with their attorney, a slick man in a $1,000 suit, gray temples perfectly styled. Harry stared straight ahead, jaw tight. Tina dabbed her eyes with tissue, the picture of concerned daughter-in-law. Judge Sarah Whitfield entered, late 50s, steel gray hair pulled back severely, sharp eyes that missed nothing. "This is a guardianship petition. The burden of proof lies with the petitioners. Proceed." Harry's attorney stood, his voice smooth as silk. "Your Honor, this is a tragic case. A loving son trying to protect his declining mother from her own failing cognition." He presented the evidence like artifacts in a museum. Photos of LaToya confused at Harris Tear, Dr. Morrison's notes about disorientation, recordings of memory lapses. Mrs. Frederick is clearly experiencing cognitive decline. Her son seeks only to protect her substantial assets, valued at over $5 million, from poor judgment that could devastate her financial security. Harry took the stand, his voice thick with rehearsed emotion. I love my mother. I just want what's best for her. She's not the woman she used to be. Sometimes she doesn't even recognize. Objection. Bennett rose slowly. Speculation without medical foundation. Sustained. Bennett's cross-examination was surgical. Mr. Frederick, you're currently $400,000 in debt, correct? Harry's composure cracked slightly. We've had some financial setbacks. Yes or no, please? Yes. Your home is in pre-foreclosure proceedings? We're working with the bank. Yes or no? Yes. You stand to inherit approximately $5.2 million upon gaining control of your mother's estate, don't you? Harry's face flushed. That's not what this is about. Answer the question. Yes, but... Bennett turned to the judge. Your Honor, this isn't protection, it's predation. And I have proof. He nodded to his assistant, who connected a laptop to the courtroom speakers. I'd like to play a recording made by the petitioner's own son. Harry's voice filled the courtroom, cold and mercenary. Even if she fights, legal fees will drain the estate. The recording played on, each word landing like a physical blow. Tina's voice, clinical and calculated. House goes on market immediately. We should clear $1.8 million. Harry's response, devoid of any warmth. She'll be fine. She won't even know the difference soon enough. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Judge Whitfield's expression hardened to granite. When silence returned, she turned to Harry, her voice ice. Mr. Frederick, would you care to explain why you're discussing liquidating your mother's estate while she sits here, clearly of sound mind? Harry's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Beside him, Tina wept, not tears of remorse, but the bitter crying of someone watching their scheme collapse. Your Honor, Harry's attorney stood. My clients did not know. Sit down, counselor. Judge Whitfield's tone could freeze fire. North Carolina is a one-party consent state, and I'm very interested in what I just heard. She shuffled papers, her jaw working. I'm dismissing this petition with prejudice. It cannot be refiled. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order. Mr. and Mrs. Frederick are prohibited from contacting Mrs. Frederick or approaching within 500 feet of her residence for a minimum of 2 years. Harry's face drained of color. I'm referring this case to the district attorney for investigation of fraud and attempted elder abuse. Judge Whitfield's gaze bore into Harry like a drill. This court will not tolerate financial predation masked as family concern. All defense costs, including attorney fees and expert witness expenses, will be paid by the petitioners. She looked at LaToya, her expression softening fractionally. Mrs. Frederick, I recommend you update your estate plan immediately with proper legal protections. This court finds you fully competent and deeply wronged. The gavel struck. As the courtroom emptied, Harry lurched toward LaToya. Mom, please, you have to understand. We were desperate. The debt, I thought... LaToya turned to face her son one last time. Henry's hand tightened in hers. I understand perfectly, Harry. You looked at your father's legacy, everything Maurice and I built in 35 years of marriage, and saw nothing but dollar signs. You saw me not as your mother, but as an obstacle to be removed. Her voice stayed steady, though her heart shattered. Maurice would be ashamed. I'm ashamed, but mostly I'm done. She walked away, leaving Harry standing alone in the empty courtroom. That evening, her phone rang. Henry's voice trembled. Grandma, they kicked me out. Dad said I'm not his son anymore. Can I come home? LaToya's answer came without hesitation. You already are home, baby. 6 months later, morning sunlight streamed through LaToya's kitchen window as Henry cracked eggs into a bowl, humming under his breath. The house had found its rhythm again. Breakfast before school, homework at the dining table where battle plans once spread, weekend gardening in the space where Maurice's roses used to bloom. They transformed the garden together. Tomatoes climbed wooden stakes Henry built himself. Peppers and herbs sprawled in neat rows. At the garden's center, a brass plaque caught the light. Maurice Frederick. Family is not always blood. It's the people who stand by you when everyone else walks away. Henry was thriving. Honor roll every semester, varsity soccer captain, college applications already submitted to Duke, UNC, and NC State. At night, they watched the old westerns Maurice loved, and Henry asked questions about his grandfather's Navy service, storing memories he'd nearly lost. Bennett called on a Tuesday afternoon. "Latoya, it's over. Harry and Tina pled guilty to attempted fraud. Suspended sentences, 2 years probation, but it's on their records permanently. The DA said without Henry's recording, they might have walked." "And my estate?" "Protected. The updated will is ironclad. Everything goes to Henry in trust until he turns 25. The Maurice Frederick Foundation is established. Harry receives nothing, and the will explicitly details why. If he contests, every judge in North Carolina will know what he tried to do." That afternoon, an envelope arrived, Harry's handwriting. Latoya stared at it for 3 days before opening it. Inside, a generic apology. Blame shifted to stress and debt, a hollow request to move forward as family. "Are you going to forgive him, Grandma?" asked Henry Saturday morning, pulling weeds beside her in the garden. Latoya paused, soiled dark beneath her fingernails. "Forgiveness isn't about them, baby. It's about not letting their actions poison what's left of your life." "Do I forgive what your father tried to do?" "No." "Will I ever have a relationship with him again?" "Probably not." She looked at Henry, this brave boy who'd saved her. "I've got too much living left to do, and now I've got you to help me do it." Mrs. Chen waved from across the fence, calling out about the community garden meeting. Neighbors had rallied after learning the truth, apologizing for believing Harry's lies. That evening, sitting on her porch as dusk settled, Latoya realized what she'd gained through loss: clarity, genuine love, protection of Maurice's legacy, and strength she never knew she possessed. Henry brought her iced tea, settling beside her on the swing. "Love you, Grandma." "Love you more, baby." And she meant it with every fiber of her being. Latoya Frederick was 68 years old, and she'd learned more in the past year than in all the decades before. Trust wasn't given, it was earned through actions, not words. The people who claim to love you most could sometimes hurt you deepest. And real family wasn't about blood, it was about who stood beside you when the world caught fire. She wrote it all down one evening, fingers flying across her laptop keyboard. The blog post went viral within days, shared across senior community forums, elder advocacy groups, and legal aid organizations. If someone in your family is trying to declare you incompetent, to take control of your life, to steal what you've worked for, fight back, she wrote. Get a lawyer. Document everything. Trust your instincts. You have value beyond your bank account, worth beyond your assets. You're not crazy. You're not confused. If someone is systematically undermining your competence, it's because they want something from you, not for you. Her warning to adult children cut even deeper. Your inheritance is not yours until it's yours. Your parents earned it. They decide what happens to it. And if you try to take it through manipulation, you might win money, but you'll lose something far more valuable, yourself. Through mutual friends, she learned Harry had lost his job. His marriage was crumbling. Tina blamed him for everything. The criminal record followed him everywhere. Was it worth it? Latoya suspected he knew the answer in his darkest moments. But Henry was flourishing. Acceptance letters arrived daily. The trust fund was secure. More importantly, the boy was secure, confident, ethical, strong. The Maurice Frederick Foundation hosted its first fundraiser in April. Latoya stood before 200 people and told her story. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. She'd found purpose beyond survival. Some nights, she swore she smelled Maurice's pipe tobacco, felt his presence in their bedroom. "I fought for us, baby," she whispered to the darkness. I protected what we built. Late one evening, LaToya and Henry sat in the garden they'd planted together. Fireflies danced above the tomato vines. The house glowed warm behind them, every light a defiant beacon against those who'd tried to take it. Grandpa would be proud of you, Grandma, Henry said quietly. LaToya took his hand. He'd be proud of both of us, baby. We saved each other. As stars emerged overhead, she understood the truth that would carry her forward. Love isn't about blood, it's about loyalty. And she was richer now than any bank account could ever make her. LaToya's story reminds us that family is defined by loyalty, not bloodlines. If this touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to stand up for yourself or someone you love against impossible odds? Your story matters. Don't forget to subscribe so we can continue sharing stories that inspire courage and resilience.